Let me start with something most videos like this won't say. The word alpha is exhausted. It's been worn down by guys with rented Lamborghinis and $15 ebooks. And that's a shame. Because underneath the branding, there's actually a real idea worth talking about. Not dominance, not status, not flexing on strangers online. The real idea is this: at some point, you become responsible for yourself. No more blaming your upbringing, your city, your circumstances. At some point, and 35 is as good a deadline as any, the architecture of your life is yours. You built it, or you didn't. So today we're talking about what to actually build. Not because it makes you alpha, because it makes you free. 1. Build a body you can rely on, not one you're performing. Here's where I'll push back on a common idea. The build a body that commands respect framing is backwards. You don't train so other people react differently to you. You train because at some point your body becomes the infrastructure of everything else. Your sleep, your mood, your energy, your ability to handle stress without collapsing. A man running on poor sleep, no movement, and a terrible diet isn't just unhealthy. He's operating at a fraction of his actual capacity. And he doesn't even know it because he's never felt the difference. The standard isn't bodybuilder. The standard is, can I function at full capacity, consistently, into my 40s and beyond? That's it. Build for function. The aesthetics follow. 2. Build a relationship with money, not just an income. Most financial advice treats money like a scoreboard. More number, better man. But the more useful thing to understand is this: money is information about your decisions. Where it goes tells you what you actually value versus what you say you value. A lot of men in their 20s earn more and more while somehow staying just as broke. Because the lifestyle inflates automatically with every raise. Before 35, the goal isn't to earn a specific amount. It's to understand what you're actually doing with what you already have. Investing? Yes. Compound interest? Yes. But also, why do I spend like this? What am I trying to feel when I buy things I don't need? That question is worth more than any financial tip. 3. Build the ability to be bored. Not focus exactly. Tolerance for boredom. Because here's what nobody talks about. The reason most men can't focus isn't a focus problem. It's a discomfort problem. The moment things get slow, the moment a task gets difficult or a thought gets uncomfortable, the phone comes out. And we've all trained ourselves, deeply and relentlessly, to never sit with discomfort for more than 30 seconds. The man who can be bored is dangerous because he can think thoughts all the way to the end. He can stay with a hard problem until it opens up. He can tolerate the slow, unglamorous parts of building something real. Try this. Sit without your phone for 20 minutes and just let your mind wander. See how quickly the discomfort hits. That discomfort is exactly what you're trying to build tolerance for. 4. Build standards for your environment and actually enforce them. Here's the hard part that most self-improvement content skips. Setting standards for who you allow into your life sounds clean in theory. In practice, it means disappointing people you genuinely care about. It means a difficult conversation with a friend you've had for 15 years. It means leaving a relationship that's comfortable, but going nowhere. It means telling people, through your choices, not always your words, that you've changed. That is uncomfortable. And a lot of men avoid it by telling themselves they're being loyal when they're actually being afraid. The question worth asking isn't, should I cut this person off or us? It's, does being around this person make me worse? And am I okay with that? Be honest with the answer. 5. Build real confidence, which means collecting evidence, not cultivating feelings. I want to talk about what confidence actually is, because the internet gets this wrong constantly. Confidence isn't a feeling you generate through affirmations. It isn't a posture you adopt. It isn't deciding to believe in yourself. Confidence is a record. Every time you did the hard thing, you added to the record. Every time you ran when you didn't want to, stayed when you wanted to quit, tried again after embarrassing yourself publicly, you added to the record. And when the next hard thing arrives, you can look at the record and think, I've handled things like this before. That's it. That's confidence, which means the fastest path to confidence isn't mindset work. It's doing difficult things and paying attention when you survive them. Quick break before we continue. Every 2 months, we give away a $50 Amazon voucher to one commenter. To enter, drop your age and the one thing on this list you're currently working on. And if this kind of content is useful to you, subscribe. New video every week. Now let's keep going. 6. Build financial discipline, which is really emotional discipline with a spreadsheet. Spending money is almost always emotional. We buy to celebrate, to cope, to signal something to ourselves or to others. The problem isn't wanting things. The problem is unconscious spending, money moving before you've thought about it. Financial discipline looks like this in practice. You pause between the impulse and the purchase. Not forever, just long enough to ask, is this actually what I want? Or is this me avoiding something? Real wealth, not the fake kind, is built in that pause. 7. Build emotional range, not emotional suppression. There's a version of emotional control being sold to men that is essentially feel nothing, show nothing, be unmoved by everything. That's not strength, that's damage. Real emotional maturity isn't suppression, it's range. A man with emotional range can feel anger without becoming it. He can feel hurt without collapsing. He can feel grief without drowning. He can also feel genuine joy, connection, and love, which emotionally suppressed men often can't access either. The goal isn't to become a wall. The goal is to become fluent in your own inner life. 8. Build depth in at least one skill, and understand why that actually matters. Here's what depth gives you that breadth doesn't. When you get genuinely good at something difficult, not competent, genuinely good, you learn how learning works. You understand what the early frustrating phase feels like. You know how to sit with not being good yet. You recognize the moment things start clicking. That knowledge transfers. A man who has mastered one hard thing can apply that same process to the next hard thing faster. It doesn't matter much what the skill is: communication, sales, writing, a trade, a craft, a sport. What matters is that you've gone deep enough to understand what mastery actually requires. 9. Build experience outside your defaults. Travel is on every list like this, and that's fine. But it's not specifically about geography. It's about putting yourself in situations where your normal social scripts don't apply, where you can't fall back on your usual identity, where you have to improvise. Figure it out. Ask for help from strangers. Maybe that's travel. Maybe it's a job in an unfamiliar field. Maybe it's living alone for the first time. Maybe it's pursuing something publicly and failing publicly. The experience that changes you most is rarely the comfortable one. 10. Build a morning that's yours. Not because morning routines are magic, because the first hour of your day is when you're most likely to choose yourself. Before the notifications, before the requests, before you're reactive to 12 different things at once. The specific routine matters less than the principle. Start the day on offense, not defense. What does that look like for you? That's the question worth answering. not copying someone else's 4 a.m. cold plunge. 11. Build the ability to leave. This is underrated and genuinely difficult. Not dramatic exits, not burning bridges. The quiet, grounded ability to walk away from what isn't working. A job, a relationship, a habit, a city, without catastrophizing. Most people stay in bad situations not because they can't imagine better, but because they're terrified of the gap between leaving and arriving somewhere good. That gap is real. It exists. It's uncomfortable. But a man who cannot leave is not a free man. He's just a man who has decided that discomfort now is less scary than uncertainty later. Usually, that calculation is wrong. 12. Build a reputation that doesn't need defending. You build this passively, through how you behave when nothing is on the line. Do you show up when you said you would? Do you tell the truth when a lie would be easier? Do you treat people the same way whether or not they're useful to you? These things get noticed. Over years, they compound. A man with a reputation for integrity doesn't need to advertise it. It arrives in the room before he does. 13. Build comfort with your own company. If you need constant stimulation to feel okay, other people, entertainment, noise, plans, that's not a social preference. That's a dependency. The ability to be alone without being lonely is not just useful. It's diagnostic. Because the man who is comfortable alone is comfortable with who he actually is. He's not performing for an audience. He's not avoiding himself through constant distraction. That kind of person makes better decisions across the board, especially in relationships, because he's not bringing desperation to the table. 14. Build a healthier relationship with your attention. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. Not your time. Your attention, the quality of it. And right now, dozens of the most sophisticated engineering teams in the world are working full-time to capture it, fragment it, and sell it. That's not paranoia. That's the business model. Being intentional with your attention isn't about being anti-technology. It's about understanding that whatever consistently gets your attention gets to shape your mind. Choose accordingly. 15. Build alignment, which is what people actually mean when they say peace. Inner peace sounds passive, like sitting under a tree, being serene. It's not. Real internal peace is structural. It comes from alignment. When what you're doing matches what you believe matters. When your private behavior matches your public image. When your long-term goals are actually reflected in how you spend your days. Without alignment, no amount of success feels like enough. You can have the money, the status, the body, the relationship, and still feel like something is off. That feeling is the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be. Close the gap. That's the work. Here's the honest summary. None of this is about becoming superior to other men. It's about becoming the author of your own life instead of the passenger. It's about being someone that you, privately, honestly, actually respect. That's harder than any external achievement, and it matters more. Start where you are, build carefully, and pay attention to who you're becoming.